Okay, so let's get the Meraki Quarterly started. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. We have a really packed schedule. I'm surrounded by a large group of Merakians, many of whom you will be hearing from over the course of the next hour. On the screen in front of you is Meraki Dave. He's Dave, the IT guy. Hopefully you've seen our ads already. We have a campaign running at the moment. We've got ads on Hulu TV and on various different podcasts and various different media. And really this is all about getting the Meraki name out there. And we wanted to put a face to Dave, the IT guy. He's been with us for a very long time, since the very early days of Meraki. I'm sure many of you know that already. But if you haven't already seen these ads, they're good fun. So go along to our website at meraki.com/worksimple. That's the name of our campaign, Work Simple. And you'll be able to watch those ads after the show, of course. You won't want to do that right now because we have lots of great material to get through today. So before we get things started, we'll quickly run through the usual rules and regulations around the Meraki Quarterly, very lightweight. This is all going to be presented by a group of esteemed product marketers and guests. We have product managers here as well, so we're really super excited about the lineup today. And this is targeted at established Meraki customers and partners. I'm hoping many of you are already with us as Meraki customers or partners, or both perhaps. If you are brand new to Meraki, welcome. You are very welcome to join us on this webinar today. It does assume prior knowledge of Meraki, so if you find it heavy going, we do have a great range of introductory webinars that can get you up to speed very quickly. Now, the Meraki Quarterly, just to remind you, is a retrospective look back over the last calendar quarter. And so everybody in the room here is well aware of that. And the aim is to be looking backwards to make sure that we're keeping you up to date with what's been happening, because it happens so fast, it's so easy to miss the details. And we stress this because this webinar is a roadmap-free zone. You should not find anything about forward-looking details for our products in the forthcoming hour, and we certainly reserve the right to avoid any answering any questions about roadmap. We know that some of you are going to ask us questions anyway, and that's great. We love the enthusiasm, but we really want to make sure that we're catching people up rather than trying to predict what the future is going to look like. So please use the Q&A tab in WebEx, not the chat page, but the Q&A tab in WebEx if you do have a question. Many of us here are online and ready to answer those questions. We'll try and get those answered for you as quick as we can. And with any time we have available at the end of the webinar, I'll quickly run through a few of the questions we've got. So the agenda is super straightforward. I'm not even going to waste any time talking about that because we need to get into the detail. I'm going to hand things straight over to Sarah Lynn, who's going to give us an update on the MV smart cameras.
Thank you, Simon. Hi, everyone. So my name is Sarah Lynn. I'm the product marketing manager for our MV Smart Cameras, and I'm going to jump right into the end. This is actually something that happened very recently towards the end of our last quarter. At Cisco Live US, we had our fearless leader, Todd Nightingale, on stage doing a keynote at Cisco Live US, showing off our newest MV Smart camera, the MV32, which is actually VR enabled. So that kind of let the cat out of the bag about the launch, if you weren't aware of it already. We had a launch early in the quarter with new hardware and features. The new hardware that we had was our fisheye camera, the MV32. It is a ultra-high resolution fisheye camera that has 360-degree viewing and can do a digital pan, tilt, and zoom to de-warp that fisheye image inside of the browser. So it's super exciting. If you haven't seen it, I recommend checking out a demo of that or reaching out to your rep for a trial. Along with the camera, we also added some new functionality, including a Motion Search 2.0, which offers increased fidelity for small changes and better sensitivity at night. And along with that, we added some new Motion Search filter options to help you find what you're looking for faster. You can specify the motion sensitivity, minimum event length you're looking for, as well as filtering out for results that we detected people in only. So that is available on all of our second generation cameras. Along with Motion Search 2.0, we added the Motion Recap feature, which is a great way to not have to watch video anymore when you're trying to figure out what happened. So these images are built in camera and summarize motion in a single image. So you can see exactly what's happened in 30 seconds without having to actually watch any video. You can see an example of that from one of our cameras in the office here looking across our parking lot, so you can kind of see one person walking across the street. Now, these images are also now included in motion alerts, so you can figure out kind of what's happening really quickly and decide whether or not you need to review footage for that. There is an option for customers that do have restricted or limited bandwidth concerns to enable or disable motion recap by enabling restricted bandwidth mode. There's more information on that in our documentation. All right, now we've added some additional features that were not part of launch over the course of the last quarter as well. The first one that I want to talk about is export checksum and extended export retention. Now that's a little bit of a mouthful, but what I want you to remember that this is actually helping with ensure the integrity of video files after they've been exported. So once a video file is exported, if for whatever reason, maybe it's evidence, in the case you need to verify that the file has not been tampered with, we have an export checksum feature within Dashboard that can verify that, and exported video is now retained for 12 months. Now this feature is available on any MV camera, so if you have one of our first generation ones, that will work as well. Now talking about retaining video, a little bit different, but sort of along the same lines. If you do, for whatever reason, need to move an MV camera from one network within an organization to another, you now have the option to retain the video on that camera rather than having it erased, which is what happened previously. So there's a little bit on the UI there if you want to retain video or not. And now note this will affect some of the camera settings as well as motion search on it, but that video will still be on the camera. The last thing, one of the last things I want to talk about is zoomed and de-warped screenshots. So there's a really great image here. I decided to use myself as the model to avoid embarrassing anyone else. But previously you could do digital zoom on any of our cameras, but if you took a screenshot of it, it would be the full view of the camera. Now if you've done a zoom or a de-warp on the fisheye camera and take a screenshot, you will get a screenshot of exactly what you see on the screen there. And then finally, this is actually my favorite enhancement that the team worked on. And this isn't a new feature, but this is a user experience improvement. And it makes it much easier when you're scrolling through different settings for the cameras that you may have. So now we have persistent tabs or sub-tabs when you're paging through cameras. So this means that if you are trying to adjust quality and retention settings for multiple cameras or look at analytics for multiple cameras, you don't have to keep clicking back on that analytics tab as you move to the next camera. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amelie, who's going to talk about Systems Manager.
Thank you, Sarah Lynn. Hi, everyone. I'm Amelie here with the product marketing team, and today I'm going to give you a quick update on Systems Manager. I'm really excited about announcing this event that we recently hosted alongside with Cisco. We hosted a escape game room in the Cisco booth, which is really new for all of us here at Cisco. And it was a really cool concept because we were able to attract a ton of people at the event. You know, a mix of audiences with tech-heavy people and also teachers and students, since this was a K-12 technology show. And the cool thing was that Systems Manager was a big part of this escape room game. There were 8 iPads in the booth, which were used by a lot of people who were not used to Meraki Dashboard or who have not played with the Meraki Dashboard at all. And seeing them use Systems Manager through the dashboard was quite exciting. A lot of the roles that they had with Systems Manager included a teacher role or an IT director, and a lot of them had to use features to unlock certain puzzles. And at the end of 25 minutes, if you were successful at solving those problems, you were able to escape the room. So this is a really fun use case of Systems Manager. If you guys are using Systems Manager out there today, just know that you can make a game out of it. Moving on to specific updates on the dashboard. So in this last quarter, we found a way to automate custom Apple profiles. So if you are a heavy Apple user, you already know that in order to create a profile, you can do that through the Meraki dashboard, or if you want custom profiles added to your devices, you typically have to go to Apple Configurator to do that. However, for a long time now, custom profiles are very difficult to do because they're not scalable, and you would have to create a new profile for every device that you add on to your network. So this is not scalable, it's very tedious, and I'm sure, as you know, very time consuming. So we went ahead and created variables, as you can see on that chart there. You can use variables into your Apple Configurator, allowing you to automate this process, and as you add more devices, basically you can push out profiles to lots and lots of devices in one time. So it saves you lots of time. The third thing I would like to talk about is also an added feature with identity certificate upload in the self-service portal. Now I wanted to reiterate that this is for corporate email access. So previously, the IT admin would have to push out certificates and create certificates for end users that want corporate access to email. Now we've enabled this feature to extend out into the self-service portal, meaning that now the end user of their device can download and push out certificates on their own. So this alleviates a lot of tedious tasks that IT admins normally have. And at the same time, to make visibility even better for our admins, those certificates that have been pushed out will automatically be updated into the Meraki dashboard so that the IT admin can keep track of what certificates were pushed out and to what profiles and devices. And that is it for Systems Manager Update. I'm going to be passing the ball to David for Meraki Access Points updates.
Hey everybody, this is David. I'm the product marketing manager for Meraki Wireless, and we've got a few exciting things that have been happening from the wireless side in the last quarter, so I'll cover some of that. So if you haven't been paying attention, recently we did have a big launch towards the end of April, and this was for our new Wi-Fi 6 compatible access points, and this is the MR55, which is an 8x8 access point. It's got 8 transmit and receive antennas, 8 spatial streams. It's got 5 gigabits of multi-gig backhaul, and then also the MR45, which is a 4x4 4 transmit and receive antennas, and then 2.5 gigs of backhaul. So why did we release these new access points? Well, across the board from a lot of our customers, we're seeing lots of changes in the wireless environment. So for example, here at the Meraki office, we have a situation that's similar to a lot of other enterprise offices around the world, which is that everybody's transitioning to a wireless first environment where we have people walking around with laptops. There aren't as many people tethered around to desktops and PCs that are wired in. So as we get more and more wireless first environments, really high density environments, when you're thinking about shopping malls, retail, a lot of that density starts to degrade the performance of Wi-Fi, and that's where Wi-Fi 6 really comes in. And there's a whole bunch of new features that are built into Wi-Fi 6 that help improve the experience for wireless users in high density environments. And just a few that I'll highlight here at the bottom. One is target wake time. This is a new feature as a part of Wi-Fi 6 that really helps conserve battery life for Wi-Fi 6 clients. It allows the client and the AP to schedule a wake-up time, and that allows the battery on the end client device to last quite a bit longer. Could be an IoT device as well, where you might want a battery to last for 10 years. And so scheduling that wake-up time really helps conserve battery life. There's also a great feature, and this is probably one of the more groundbreaking features as a part of Wi-Fi 6, which is OFDMA. If you want to read up on OFDMA, there's lots of explanations, but just sort of in a nutshell, I sort of like to think about it like a game of Tetris, where you've got lots of different transmissions going on in a wireless environment. You've got VoIP, you've got high-density video, but you've also got IoT devices, or you've got somebody, in the office right down the hallway who's sending a tweet. So all of these different transmissions with Wi-Fi previously used to cause the other transmissions to have to wait and sort of wait in line until the previous transmission was sent. And with OFDMA, you can package up and fit together all of these different blocks and different types of transmissions, whether it's a really high data rate transmission or the guy down the hallway who's sending a tweet, and it packages them all up together and sends them at the same time. So it really helps with that high density performance. Obviously, MU-MIMO is a part of Wi-Fi 6, and that goes across the 8x8 MR55 as well. So you've got an 8x8 MU-MIMO, so you can imagine how many different transmit and receive sessions you can have going there. Bluetooth 5.0 is added into these access points. And then one of the things you'll notice with Wi-Fi 6 is that 2.4 gigahertz is back in play. With some of the new features like OFDMA, the Wi-Fi 6 standard really hopes to take advantage of that 2.4 gigahertz spectrum in a more efficient way. So lots of different new features that are coming in with Wi-Fi 6. It should bring really high performance, particularly to those dense environments, those wireless first environments. And one of the things that Meraki's done with these new APs is to really enable a very smooth transition over to Wi-Fi 6. People are always concerned with new hardware. What does that mean? Does that mean it's fully tested? Well, we have done a lot of testing on the back end with our new access points, not only just on the APs themselves, but also with some of the end device vendors like Samsung and the chipset vendors like Intel. So these are coming out of the gate and being really, really high quality, high reliability to enable that smooth transition. So all that being said, you might be wondering, well, that's great, smooth transition, should be ready to go right away. Who's actually using this? So I've actually pulled in a few interesting use cases that we've seen over the last year. One is that Meraki Wi-Fi 6 is being used at McLaren. So we talked a little bit about Cisco Live earlier in the quarterly here, and McLaren was on stage. If you want to see that that talk where McLaren talked about their Meraki deployment, you can follow the link on the bottom right. But McLaren is using Wi-Fi 6, and they had some interesting stories about how they had one of the new MR55 access points, and some of the employees were actually stealing the AP and placing it into different regions of their operations to help with the speeds. So they had heard, hey, there's this new Meraki Wi-Fi 6 AP that's deployed. We've got some big data downloads and things that we need to do. We heard it's really fast. And so with the simplicity of Meraki, they just unplugged it, plugged it back in a different area, and we're kind of moving that AP around to wherever their high density and high throughput needs were. So McLaren has lots of different operations. You can certainly learn about that in the talk that they did at Cisco Live. But one of the quotes that their principal digital architect, Edward Green, mentioned during the talk was that Wi-Fi 6 speeds have been incredible. It's allowed people to change how they think about mobility. And we definitely love to see a quote like that coming from somebody who's very used to seeing high speed in the workplace, right? So a really interesting talk if you want to check that out. Another great use case is the US Open, and this one was really exciting for us. This is actually a picture that was taken during the US Open recently, and you can see the massive density of mobile devices on the course there, taking a look at Tiger Woods as he takes a swing. And Meraki Wi-Fi was covering the entire course with over 350 access points, whether it's indoor, outdoor. It was deployed very quickly, handled 70,000 clients. This is obviously a live, nationally televised event, so no pressure, right? But Meraki Wi-Fi basically covered the entire course, and Wi-Fi 6 was running in some of the really high-density environments. So you can learn more about this deployment with the link at the bottom right there. And definitely want to mention that we'll be talking more about this specific deployment at the US Open, which was really exciting. Not only did they have Wi-Fi 6, they had outdoor Wi-Fi, indoor Wi-Fi, as well as an MX450 running there as well. So really exciting deployment. So you can see that people across the board are kind of trusting that Wi-Fi 6 out of the gate. We talked a little bit about Cisco Live today, and we had Wi-Fi 6 deployed there as well. So 28,000 attendees, really high density. You've got all of these keynote talks, and people are streaming videos. They're having, calls all over the place. So definitely a challenging environment and a great one to try out Wi-Fi 6. So we had our MR45 APs that were deployed all over the place. And another interesting piece to this was that the Meraki APs were open roaming connected. And this is something you're going to hear more about from both Cisco and Meraki. Open roaming is a way to ease the onboarding process onto Wi-Fi. So this has been a challenge ever since Wi-Fi was introduced. And I'm sure you can think about times where you go to an airport and you're having to watch some ad or type your phone number in and receive a text and try to onboard yourself via some complicated way of connecting to the Wi-Fi. Open roaming really helps to improve that onboarding experience, and we utilize that here at Cisco Live. There was an app that you could download prior to the event, and you would just switch on open roaming, and anybody who then came to the event after that would be automatically onboarded onto Wi-Fi. So if you're familiar with Passpoint, it's a similar technology to that, but with Passpoint, you were limited to a specific service provider. With open roaming, the goal is that Cisco is working with service providers across the board, as well as device manufacturers, cloud providers, to really make onboarding very seamless wherever you go. So as we expect with cellular, we're not expecting to have different login pages every time we go to a different cell tower. The vision is really to have the same thing happen when you go to different places that offer Wi-Fi. And then one of the other talks at Cisco Live was that U-Haul was there. Again, there's a link at the bottom right if you want to check out the interview. But U-Haul is actually deploying 10 to 12,000 Meraki devices across 2,000 different sites. And that includes Wi-Fi, switching, security. And they had a really interesting interview talking about their deployment. They're also using APIs across the board to help with that massive deployment. As you can imagine, going into dashboard and configuring 10 to 12,000 devices manually, even with the simplicity of Meraki, is a challenge. So they actually built a new solution with APIs so that technicians on site could just enter the serial number and the address of the location they're deploying to, and it automatically hooks via API into the dashboard and helps to configure all of those devices. So lots of great customer examples there. You can check out some of the interviews and more information via the links. But we're definitely really excited about the Wi-Fi 6 deployments and the new technology there and seeing that ramp up really quickly. All right, so that's the wireless update. I'm going to pass it over to Abhi to talk about switches.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. My name is Abhi, and I'm working in product marketing for switches. And I'm going to be talking about some of the cool updates we had over the last quarter. And when we talk about switches, it's important to talk about some of the trends we've seen over the last quarter that have been shaping switching. And one of the first ones is that we see live video streaming becoming the norm rather than the exception. And we're seeing an incredible increase in the number of devices that are capable of doing PoE. And thirdly, we're seeing a steady but certain evolution of IoT devices which are passing millions of gigabits of data every second over the network. And lastly, if your uplink capacity is inadequate, then there's really no point in making endpoints that are super powerful. And to address all of this, we introduced the MS-125, which has 4 10 gig SFP uplinks, which comes in 24 and 48 ports in both PoE and non-PoE versions. And this helps you future-proof your network. And when we take a look at how this compares to our entire portfolio, we see that if you want basic L2 features with 1 gig SFP uplinks, it's available on the 120, the 125, and the 210. If you want L2 features with 10 gig SFP uplinks, it's available only on the MS-125. If you want L3 uplinks with basic L3 features with 1 gig uplinks, you get it on the MS-120. And physical stacking is also available only on the MS-210, and virtual stacking is available across the entire board. So the real big takeaway for the MS-125 is if you're looking to future-proof your network with 10 gig SFP uplinks, then the MS-125 is the way to go. And while we're talking about uplinks, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the 2 new SFPs that we launched. We launched the ER and the ZR SFPs. The ER SFP is compatible with the MS-125, whereas the ZR is compatible with a host of other models on our portfolio. And up next, we have Melissa with some exciting updates on our cloud.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I'm the product marketing manager for our cloud and API platform. First thing I want to announce, this last quarter, we announced a brand new developer hub and Meraki marketplace. These are evolutions of our Meraki.io sites, if you've been following us on that side. But both of these are made to provide everything that you need to build on top of Meraki APIs or buy some turnkey solutions that have been provided and pre-built by some of our partners and service providers or service integrators. We actually announced this at Cisco's DevNet Create event last quarter. What you're seeing now, this is the SVP of DevNet, Susie Lee, with our product manager for APIs, Tony Carmichael. I'm a sucker for a good GIF, and in this one they're saying /Meraki. So the new site for the developer hub is developer.cisco.com/Meraki. I'm going to dive into that now to give you guys a quick peek. All right. So this is hosted on the Cisco DevNet site, and for folks that aren't familiar, Cisco DevNet is Cisco's developer program for all of your APIs and resources for building on top of all Cisco technologies. So at Meraki, we partner really closely with that team, and this new developer hub is hosted on the DevNet site. Right here on the home page, you'll see some live snippets of code and some examples to start playing around with the Meraki API. In terms of developing applications or solutions for guest Wi-Fi, location services, things like that. This entire site is really meant to be your one-stop shop for everything that you need to start building on top of Meraki technologies. We also have full code libraries here for all of our APIs, our dashboard, webhook, and scanning APIs, and live, always-on sandbox environments for you to test out API code without pushing it to your production environment. So there's a lot here to get started. We also have this full explore page here with examples of pre-built solutions and demos and guides to help you start playing around with the APIs. It's definitely a place to look for some solutions built across different industries and use cases. And lastly, I want to point out this What's New page. This is a up-to-date page for all of our new endpoints that are available. Definitely something to take a look at to see what's new across all of our different APIs. So back into more updates here. And if you want to take a deeper look in there, again, developer.cisco.com/Meraki. We also announced with that launch of the Developer Hub that all of our dashboard API is now written in support of the Open API specification. So this is an industry standard framework for describing APIs. It makes it even easier to start building on top of Meraki technologies. And a few different partner integrations. Again, we also have the Meraki Marketplace that we announced. The link to that is meraki.com/marketplace. And we have a few partner integrations that we featured last quarter with PagerDuty, Ansible, and OneLogin. There are over 50 turnkey solutions on the Meraki Marketplace today. All of them have a free trial option, so it's a great way to take a look and see if there are any solutions that have been pre-built to help you with wayfinding, customer loyalty, captive portal solutions, a ton of options there on top of Meraki Technologies to take a look at. We also recently announced Action Batches. This is a batched framework API endpoint that allows you to basically create a series of API commands and bundle those together to run synchronously or asynchronously and push that out across your network. The reason you do this is to basically be able to deploy multiple changes or configurations across networks and devices, to be able to do that in a way that avoids any rate call limits, especially for really high-scale changes or setup or configuration, and take advantage of some of the bulk error detection built in, so making sure that all updates will succeed before those changes are executed or committed. We have a full blog on this available on the Meraki blog site, and in that there's a demo video where we use Action Batches to set up multiple global networks in just a matter of minutes. It's a really powerful demo to take a look at, and we do have a full guide for that demo if you want to run something like that yourself. So both of those links are available in our blog. They'll also be sent out in the email following this webinar event. A few other new endpoints, and again, all of these are listed on the Developer Hub. We did push out a management IP addressing API endpoint along with webhook logs for an organization, so being able to index what webhook API endpoints are being used, along with an organization-wide device index and switch port profile bind for those switching templates. Last month, we also launched the first ever DevNet Express. This is again with the Cisco DevNet team. This Express event was right before Cisco Live US. It was the first time we ever did a Meraki-focused DevNet Express. It was hands-on training for our customers, partners, and service providers, service integrators on everything Meraki APIs. If this sounds like it could be useful for you, I definitely recommend reaching out to your local account team for more information about some local sessions. Also at Cisco Live, you may have heard Cisco announce some new certifications across their CCNA and certification portfolio. Included in that, DevNet also announced some software development certifications that are available, and I wanted to point out here that Meraki is included in those DevNet certifications. All of those certifications, those new certifications, are coming February 2020, so please stay tuned. We'll have more information leading up to that date. And I've really flown through the API and cloud updates here, but if you're interested in learning more and digging more into the APIs in more detail, we do have another API-focused webinar coming up on Tuesday, July 16th, so we definitely hope that you can make it. Next up, I'm going to hand it over to Mitch to talk about security and SD-WAN.
Thanks, Melissa. Now, I'm going to jump right into it, and the order here is pretty convenient because the biggest thing we've been focusing on the last quarter is automation and manageability for our customers, especially at scale. And API has always been our focus, at least for the last quarter, and we've been doing an API-first strategy. We've been going through and having all of our existing features encompass API endpoints, as well as developing new API endpoints with all new features. Now, down the list here is just some of the milestones we hit last quarter, including Layer 7 application categories, Layer 7 firewall rules, malware settings, IDS and IPS for things like Snort, as well as traffic shaping. And this has been really great for a lot of our larger customers with a few thousand sites, especially not having to go in manually through dashboard and adjust the traffic shaping for different broadband circuits across the globe. And then even things like view and update content filtering settings for group policies. We have now a way to kind of customize and really scale the way you apply group policies across an entire organization. Now, a big thanks to this actually goes to the Cisco Defense Orchestrator team. And we were fortunate enough to have the CDO team actually come to the Meraki office and help develop a lot of our new API endpoints we have for security and a lot of the ones that were mentioned in the previous slide. And this kind of goes to the theme of the multi-domain architecture, where a lot of our customers and our partners that sell to the end customer, there's environments that are not all Meraki, and a lot of our customers that are existing Cisco customers have firepower. And we want to be able to unify security policy, authentication, and network integrity across this multi-domain fabric so that it's not a Meraki or a Cisco solution, it's just a Cisco security solution. Additionally, I know this isn't a roadmap discussion, but we did just have an announcement for HTTPS inspection in beta. Please contact your SE or your sales rep and your SE sales rep or support, and we can get this flipped on for you in your production or beta network. With that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Shashwa, who's going to talk about Meraki Insight.
Thanks, Mitch. Hey everyone, I'm Shashwat. I'm the product manager for Meraki Insight. I want to start off by a couple of things that we released in the last quarter. The first thing, which some of you may have noticed, was that we revamped the troubleshooting UI within Web App Health. The feedback that we had gotten consistently from a lot of our customers was that there was a lot of data, a lot of very, very useful data within Web App Health, but they needed to be able to make correlations much more quickly. And so that is exactly what we try to achieve with this new UI. It's if you want to see this UI in action, you'll see a short link on the top right corner of your screen, which will say something like a view new version. All you have to do is click on view new version, and you'll be able to see the new UI in action. So that begs the question, what's new in this new UI? Well, for starters, most of our customers use Insight to find the root cause of any network problem, whether it's in the WAN, LAN, or application. And that's exactly how we have redesigned this new UI. You'll see the 3 tabs in the top left section, the WAN, LAN, and application tabs. We put down all the information, detailed troubleshooting statistics according to which part of the network they are coming from. So what that really means, if you're using this new UI to troubleshoot, it'll be a lot easier to make correlations in real time, and you'll be able to make more accurate judgments in a lot shorter time. And finally, there's a lot more data than before that we've added to this tab. Just play around with it. We are always open for feedback. Send us an MI wish. You know how that works. Bottom right, make a wish, and we'd love to hear more from you. The second major update that we have made is in WAN Health. If you see the highlighted fields, we've added 2 new fields in WAN Health. The first field is a percent capacity field. As the name suggests, this is nothing more than how much of your broadband pipe or how much of your internet pipe are you using at any given time. So again, this is very useful if you want to do some capacity management calculations. And secondly, this is a very interesting field. It's called notes. Essentially, the use case here is that if you are doing some troubleshooting of a persistently bad internet connection, and if you just want to add some data to remind you of the steps you have taken for the next person who will be looking at it 20 minutes later or 2 days later, and you want them to have some kind of context. So all you need to do is enter some notes. Maybe this is what you did for troubleshooting. These are this is the account number, for example. These are the phone numbers that you want to contact. Write whatever you want. Insight will save it there so that the next person who will be troubleshooting 2 days later or 3 days later has all the context of what needs to be done. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about some very interesting use cases and stories that we have seen over the last 1 month. In case you might have missed it, the internet had a rough last few weeks. There were all sorts of outages from Cloudflare. There were some BGP outages that were introduced by Verizon.
Facebook had a rough time, and for some reason, all of these accumulated within the course of a few days. I want to highlight two specific ones which particularly affect our own networks as well as our customer networks. The first one here is Google Calendar. So a lot of our customers and for that matter Meraki as well, some people use Google Calendars to obviously as part of their calendars and office suites. So what we found out was that Google Calendar was not working a few days ago, or rather a few weeks ago. And if you were a network engineer and you heard this problem from your end users, you wouldn't have known where to begin troubleshooting. However, if you were using Insight, you would have taken one quick look at Insight at Web App Health, and you would have immediately seen that it was a server problem. As it turns out, if you happen to troubleshoot and dig deeper, you would have seen very quickly that a few Google servers were affected, and this was resulting in a lot of clients on your network having very high response times while trying to access Google Drive and Google Calendar. So this was a very interesting use case that we observed. Moving on, and this was something that would have affected even more customers, because obviously Office 365 is something that is being used by by some estimates 1/3 of corporate customers worldwide. This was towards the middle of last week. What we observed in our Chicago office was that a lot of our internal salespeople were having a big spike in latency while accessing Office 365. When they were trying to use Office 365, either it was non-responsive or some applications were just not working, or it was just giving an error. So again, if you were looking at Meraki Insight during this time, as you can see over here, around 14:28, suddenly the outage began, and the loss from Office 365 traffic spiked from 0 to 60%. And it's interesting to note that the internet connection was fine. If you look at the WAN 1 and the WAN 2 loss, it was pretty much near zero. The only traffic that was affected was Office 365 traffic. So very clearly it was a problem in the wider WAN. And sure enough, a few hours later, if you were monitoring the Office 365 status account on Twitter, it was a problem that was diagnosed very, in a very detailed manner by Microsoft. But the key here is, again, if you're a network engineer and if you were using Insight at the time, you would have been able to diagnose the root cause of this outage before your end users would have started complaining, and you could have taken active steps to inform them that, hey, something is wrong and we are working to fix it. And with that, it's over to Simon.
Thanks, Shashwat. One of the reasons we started the Meraki Quarterly was because there's just so much going on here every single quarter, and it's a challenge for some of us to keep up with it, let alone our big wide audience out there. So I hope you're finding the session useful today. Another thing that we've done here to try to help with that challenge is introduce a podcast. Many of us, I think, are choosing to subscribe to podcasts as a great way of keeping up with the things that we're into and interested in, whether we're commuting or out jogging, if you're a healthy person, whatever you're into. Podcasts are just a really nice way of casually keeping up with the things that you're interested in. And so we decided to launch a podcast of our own. It's called Meraki Unboxed. And so rather than providing you with a hyperlink here, we know that there are many different podcast apps out there. Easy for the Apple ecosystem, of course, but for Android, there's a whole bunch of them. If you just go onto your favorite app and search for Meraki Unboxed, you will find that very easily, and you'll be able to subscribe to it there, and they get delivered into your inbox for your podcast app every couple of weeks. And in fact, we were just hearing there from Shashwat about Meraki Insight, very exciting software product to help us with end user experience. and to accelerate the role of IT. And we wanted to get into that in more detail. We don't have time to do that in a regular session, and certainly like the quarterly. So this podcast episode let us really get into this. We talked to the actual engineer who's working on the product, as well as Shashwat himself, the product manager. So really nice way to keep up and get into more detail in a more relaxed setting. So I definitely recommend you go along and check that out if you haven't done so already. And I'm going to hand over quickly to Meredith now, who's going to talk to us briefly about updates on the Meraki community.
Thanks, Simon. Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith, and I am one of the community managers on the Meraki community. If you are unfamiliar, the Meraki community is our peer-to-peer support forum for Meraki customers and partners. You can find us at community.meraki.com. If you have spent any time there, you may have noticed a few fantastically knowledgeable individuals who are our most prolific contributors, answering tough questions constantly, and you'll typically see them featured here on the right. We wanted to more formally highlight their accomplishments, so we have just launched the Meraki Community All-Stars program. This program is meant to recognize and reward our most active members and provide them with a kind of an opportunity to be featured among their peers in the community. And we're very excited to announce our first cohort of Meraki Community All-Stars, the 2019 group. So please join me in congratulating and thanking them for their contributions by leaving a comment at cs.co/allstars. Thanks. Now back to Simon.
Oh, it's me again. Okay, so here is Meraki Dave again. I don't know why I'm calling him Meraki Dave. He's Dave, the IT guy. Just to remind you once again, this is part of our brand campaign, so we can spread the word about Meraki. We know that you're all very keen on the solutions that we have. We want to make sure that we're spreading the word as effectively as possible, and this is definitely a fun way of doing that. So if you haven't seen these ads, once again, please do go along and check those out at meraki.com/worksimple. I think you'll find those fun, and if you like them, why not share them? Okay, so wow, we've packed so much already into the last 50 minutes. We've got a few minutes left to take some questions that we've been asked during the course of the session, and our attendees here have been furiously tapping away on their keyboards, keeping up with all the Q&A as effectively as they can. So what I'm going to do now is just take a look down through some of the questions and see if I can help you with some of those, just share some of those with you more broadly, and we'll wrap things up. Okay, so let's have a look down the list here. Just give me a second. One of the early questions we had was around which camera model Sarah Lynn was referring to right at the beginning of the quarterly. This is the one that has this kind of fisheye view that you can sort of view the entire area that the space that you're in, and has a really cool VR demo. If you haven't seen that, there's actually a video on YouTube of our illustrious leader Todd Knight doing that demo at Cisco Live just a few weeks ago. It's an amazing demo because really this just sets your mind off thinking about different ways in which you can use that particular product. And of course, the data that we're able to get from these cameras now enables us to do so much more through the APIs. And that was one of the interesting features during the webinar, during this quarterly today, is something I've really noticed over time is how we're shifting to more and more emphasis around software features and the capabilities we have there that you can tap into via APIs. So I think it's really exciting that Meraki is being included in the new Cisco certifications as well. Okay, so just scanning through the questions here. Give me a second as I do that.
Yeah, so I see a question about ExpressRoute and Direct Connect and why we don't support BGP. Great news, we do support BGP. In our latest 14 firmware, we just G8'd that was part of our 14 release. Some caveats, the two main use cases are active-active data centers and data center resiliency. Now, if you're terminating the ExpressRoute or Direct Connect circuits at your data center, then we can absolutely peer with one of our VPN concentrators to those pipes. What we can't do today, and what is in long-term plans is actually running BGP from the branch site on the WAN to one of those IP VPNs going to AWS or Azure. But yes, absolutely, we have BGP support today. Just contact support or your SE and they can flip it on for you. And we have a lot of documentation as well.
Thanks, Mitch. We had a couple of great questions around wireless as well. Obviously, a lot of interest in the new Wi-Fi 6 compatible access points. Do you want to stress that these are compatible with the essential capabilities of Wi-Fi 6? So the standard is likely to be ratified. We're currently looking at January 2020 for the IEEE to ratify 802.11ax, which is Wi-Fi 6, the same thing. So keep in mind that most vendors who've got products out in the market today, what they're focusing on is leveraging the advances in Wi-Fi 6 that really do start to make a difference. We want to get those into the hands of customers as quickly as possible. So one of the questions we had, for example, was around whether deploying brand new Wi-Fi 6 access points actually helps if most of the clients are not currently supporting that. And that's absolutely true. Most clients today on the market don't actually have a Wi-Fi 6 compatible chipset built into them. There's some brand new smartphones that do, and there's a few other sort of IoT type devices which are starting to get those chipsets built in. One of the good pieces of news here is that older devices that don't even support 11ax or Wi-Fi 6 are still going to see a benefit here, because as we increase the number of clients connecting to Wi-Fi 6 access points, what you'll find is that they'll be talking more efficiently and taking less time to communicate on the Wi-Fi, which is a shared medium after all. And that frees up more time for other clients, older clients, to be able to communicate. So the net effect of that is that you actually overall increase throughput for all of the clients on your Wi-Fi network. So that's good news there. And we also had a question around the inclusion of Bluetooth on these APs and why do we do that? So I'm sure many of you know the answer to this already, but for those of you who've not come across it before, we've actually been putting a Bluetooth capability into our APs for at least 3 years, maybe 4 years by now. I think we introduced that on the MR34 access point quite a way back on 11AC. And the reason we did that was because we do have this really nice capability where we can obviously monitor for Bluetooth clients in an environment. So if you're using a Bluetooth tag on a very valuable piece of equipment, then you can keep track of that as it moves through your physical space. But we also have the capability of being able to provide beaconing for any applications running on smartphones or tablets that take advantage of those beacons for location tracking as well. So that means you can open up all kinds of possibilities in the location space. Okay, just going to be tracking down the questions here, so bear with me for another moment or two. Oh, Mitch is coming back for another one.
There was a question regarding IKV2 support on the MX, and we do have this available in early beta today. You just have to upgrade to the latest 15 version of firmware and then have your sales engineer enable the feature for you. But yeah, absolutely, if you guys want to flip it on in your labs, or we actually do have some production networks running it, feel free to contact support or your SC.
Thanks, Mitch. Moving on to switches, we had a question around the new MS125. This is the access layer switches, which should enable you to provide 10 gig uplinks. No physical stacking on those, but those are designed to help you with getting maximum upstream performance to the aggregation layer in your network. And the question there was around specifically port isolation. So the good news there is that there are no changes for MS125 to any of the other switches in our family. So all of the features that we've already included on the software side have been carried over into that switch as well. So you'll find port isolation in the Meraki dashboard for those as well. Okay. I've got a laggy computer here, so bear with me a second. Okay, so a question that we often get asked on the wireless side, limit around connected clients on Wi-Fi. So the same thing applies with the 45 and 55. We don't set a hard limit. at Meraki for the number of client devices that can be connected to one of our APs. And we have plenty of customers who've connected well in excess of 100 clients onto a single access point. I think this is more of a question of quality of experience for the end users, bearing in mind that no matter how much capacity you have on your access point, you are still dealing with a shared medium. So if your individual clients are able to communicate at very high speed, but you've got over 100 of them trying to do so, you're obviously going to get congestion. You're obviously going to have a challenge maintaining a great experience for all the users there. And that's why we typically recommend doing a very thorough site survey and thinking about the kind of client density you're going to have within a given physical space to make sure you have the appropriate number of access points to support the density that you're looking to deploy into. We often get asked this question, is the Meraki Quarterly recorded? And it's a really important question because I'm certainly aware, I think I need to go back and revisit some of this material because it comes at you so fast during this hour. Yes, we record every single Meraki Quarterly, and in a couple of days from now, you'll find it on the Meraki YouTube channel, so you can go and check up on that and share it as you wish from there. So a question around WAN health on Meraki Insight. So this question really was asking whether it's available on the MX models. Keep in mind that the MX is simply the platform that we use to enable us to access the data for Meraki Insight. So Meraki Insight is a software capability that you purchase in addition to your MX model, but provides you with quite a significant increase in capability when it comes to monitoring quality of experience. And Shashwat talked about some of the challenges that have been seen on the internet over the past few weeks, and it certainly has affected quite a number of cloud-based applications. And as we move to more and more of those over time, we definitely if we're IT practitioners, we want to make sure our end users are having a good experience regardless of where their data is coming from. Meraki Insight does a fantastic job of helping an IT administrator to understand any potential issues, be they within the local area, the wide area networks, or out in the cloud services themselves across the network. So you can pinpoint those and you can troubleshoot them and remediate them as quickly as you can. Okay, so I think we'll wrap things up now. We're approaching the top of the hour. We want to thank you once again very much for joining us on the Meraki Quarterly. We love doing these. It's a fantastic way to share what we've been up to over the course of the past quarter. So there goes the summer edition. We'll be back for the autumn edition in just 3 months from now. And so thanks again for joining us, and we hope you have a really great rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.